Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and the fateful day has finally arrived. The brand new iPhone 11 Pro, or in this case, it's the bigger version. So the iPhone 11 Pro Max is here, and it comes wrapped in a beautiful black box. So for this video, I wanted to unbox the iPhone 11 Pro and then go over some quick impressions of using this device, and especially trying out that camera right there. See that big square camera bump? Yeah, that's one of the main new features with the iPhone 11 Pro. It's got a normal lens, a telephoto lens, and a brand new ultra wide angle lens, the first time ever on an iPhone. So with that being said, let's get right into the unboxing. As you can see, we have the iPhone 11 Pro Max right here. It's in the midnight green color. We have the, of course, triple lens setup over here in the corner. And you can see that it now comes in a black box as opposed to a white box. I guess iPhone 11 Pro is more pro, so it comes in a black box. Actually, when they did the iPhone 7 in jet black, that also came in a black box. As you can see, we have a regular green iPhone 11 over here, and that still comes in the white box. So I guess if you're going for the Pro models, Apple is saying black packaging means Pro. We've seen them kind of do that with things like the iMac Pro, so kind of not really a surprise here, but I do like the black packaging, even though it's something very minuscule. Okay, now let's rip off that plastic. And you can see we have the box. Let's go ahead and open it up. And right on top, right on the back, they want you to notice that the biggest change to the iPhone is on the back of it. You have that triple lens camera setup. That's basically the newest aesthetic feature on the iPhone. And of course, that new midnight green color with frosted glass, kind of a more matte finish on it. And is there even plastic on the back of this? No, it just looks like on the front we have the plastic that will peel off. I know the iPhone's the most exciting part, but let's put that to the side for now, because we also have some other things that are coming in the iPhone box for the first time, and that includes a fast charger, an 18-watt fast charger in the box. Now, this is a USB-C to Lightning connector, so the iPhone itself is still using Lightning. However, the power adapter connector on this end is USB-C. And you can also see we're getting a generic pair of Lightning headphones, so those come in the box. Now, there is no headphone jack adapter. Last year on the XS, they didn't include that either, so that's no surprise. And of course, here is that Lightning to USB-C cable that we were talking about. So Lightning on one end, and then of course you have the USB-C on the other end. But let's take a closer look at the back of that iPhone 11 Pro Max. So it's gonna take a little while to get used to that. But this is the back of it. Again, you have a normal lens, a wide angle, and then a telephoto. And then you can see on the front, it's basically pretty much the same, except the real difference here is that new midnight green color, which does look quite different in person than the photos were showing off. So if you're on the edge about what color you should pick, maybe go to the Apple Store first, check out all the colors before you decide. Now let me bring my old iPhone XS Max for comparison, and here you can see the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the iPhone XS. So this has the dual lens camera right there, and you can see that the camera bump on the 11 Pro Max is much bigger, but you can also see the color differences between the silver, which used to be a more glossy finish. If you actually get the same phone in silver, it'll be more matte, so a little bit of a different color change, even if you're going with the same color. But yeah, you can just kind of see the differences between these two phones on the back, and of course, if you flip them over, they are the same exact thing. One of the things I was curious about is how the siding would look on the iPhone 11 Pro in the midnight green, and here you can kind of see the different colors of that siding. Apple doesn't really show it off too much in their marketing images. All right, now let me just go through the setup process, play around with this, and then I will get back to you with my initial impressions. Okay, so I stepped away from the camera for a little bit to set up the iPhone 11 Pro Max, and then after I set it up, I actually spent a good deal of time not working on this video and just playing around with all the new features that are available on the iPhone 11 Pro. Now, one of the things I noticed when I first powered this on was the display improvements that Apple made with the iPhone 11 Pro. So Apple went over that full spec list sheet of all the different improvements that they said were going to be on the iPhone 11 Pro, including some greater contrast, and especially in the brightness area. They say that this phone can get up to 1200 nits of peak brightness when you're watching a video. However, if you actually go on their website and read, it should only get to 800 nits of peak brightness if you're using it outside in direct daylight. So far, the colors on this screen look really, really good, and they pop really well, especially with that OLED display technology. And if you're using something like dark mode, it looks really great on the iPhone 11 Pro. Like I mentioned before, you do get that 800 nits of brightness when you're going outside, and it was a sunny day today, so I went directly outside to test out those brightness claims. And I gotta say, viewing this thing at high noon in direct sunlight, I could see everything on my screen with so much clarity. It was really, really good. Really happy with the improved brightness that Apple is adding to the iPhone 11 Pro series. After testing out the brightness in direct sunlight, the next thing I did was load up some YouTube videos, and I actually watched Jonathan Morrison's review on the iPhone 11 Pro, on my iPhone 11 Pro, and I gotta say, if you haven't seen that yet, you gotta go watch it. It is a fantastic video. I also loaded up some 4K HDR content on iTunes, and I'm not gonna show it here because I don't wanna get copyright stricken, but basically the video quality on the iPhone 11 Pro in HDR with that 1200 nits of peak brightness in areas like the highlights, it was really, really great. I gotta say, I got totally immersed on this iPhone 11 Pro screen. And another thing to mention is the speakers on the iPhone 11 Pro. Apple said they were doing some new spatial audio technology that would basically allow you to hear where the sound was coming from. Last year on the iPhone XS, they added stereo speakers with wider sound. And this is basically an improvement over the XS Max's wider stereo sound that they added last year. And I gotta say, I'm not sure if I could pinpoint directly where it's coming from or if the Dolby Atmos improvements that Apple added to the iPhone 11 Pro are really working there, but all I can tell you is that the iPhone 11 Pro speakers sound really good. They are crystal clear and they get surprisingly loud. Another new thing about the iPhone 11 Pro is of course that brand new A13 Bionic chip inside of it. Of course, last year the iPhone XS and the iPhone XR had the A12 chip inside of it. Now I'm going to have to spend more time with the iPhone 11 Pro before I can give a verdict on the performance gains with the A13 chip. So one of the things I noticed besides this brand new green finish on the iPhone 11 Pro was of course also the fact that it is a bit heavier. So Apple actually added a lot of battery to this phone. Obviously this is just an unboxing and first impression. So if you're asking me about any claims of battery life, I can't give those to you yet. You'll have to wait for the full review. But because they've added a bigger battery in here, you are getting a bit more weight, especially compared to something like the iPhone XS, and especially compared to something like the iPhone XR. I actually picked up the iPhone XR with my iPhone 11 Pro, and the iPhone XR, just after holding this phone for a couple hours, it kind of felt like it was hollow or something, like something was missing out of it, like there wasn't anything inside of it, but that's just because there is some weight added to the iPhone 11. I'll also say I am really liking the new finish on the iPhone 11 Pro, that new matte kind of softer finish. It's very similar to the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 3 XL if you've ever held one of those, but it does feel really, really nice in the hands. I know that's such a smartphone cliche. I have grown to quite like it after using it for the past hour. I keep kind of looking at it, looking at the new finish, but I am definitely a fan of the midnight green. If anything, it is a very unique color. Okay, enough about the display, enough about the new finish, enough about how it feels in the hand. What people really care about is the brand new camera system on the iPhone 11 Pro, and that's on the front and on the back of this device because there is improvements to almost every aspect of the camera experience on the iPhone 11 Pro. Let's start with the back camera because that's the first one that everyone notices. So now we have a normal lens, a telephoto lens, much like the old iPhone XS and XS Max, and now the addition of an ultra wide angle lens. This is the first time that Apple has added an ultra wide angle lens to any of its smartphones. The experience of using these lenses together is a pretty smooth experience overall. So Apple does a really good job with the transitions from the ultra wide to the normal to the telephoto. It all kind of feels like you're using one singular lens despite the fact that they are three separate cameras. So obviously this is a first impressions video. I haven't had the phone that long where I could give you a full review, but I gotta say with my quick time with this phone, I am pretty impressed by the camera. So you can see even in just these few sample shots I've been taking that the iPhone 11 Pro does a really good job with the colors, the dynamic range, the clarity in these photos is just really outstanding. And you do get some really nice perspectives depending on what lens you're using, whether that's the ultra wide, the normal wide angle, or the telephoto lens. I've been really happy with the portrait mode shots on the iPhone 11 Pro as well, and I'm also really happy that Apple decided to listen and add the option for the normal portrait mode or the telephoto portrait mode. Previously on the iPhone XS, you could only take portrait mode with the telephoto lens, and then the iPhone XR had a software base where you could take it with the normal to get a wider perspective. You can now do both of those portrait modes on the iPhone 11 Pro. So one other point about the camera is that brand new night mode feature. Now what I think a lot of people don't understand about Apple's version of night mode is that it's giving you a live preview directly on the phone. So other cameras like the Pixel, you can do the night mode shot, you take the picture, and then it post-processes to give you the final result. Apple tries to give you a really good indication of how that photo will look when you're actually looking at the screen of your phone, to the point where I was in a very, very dark basement with no lights on. I pointed my camera at a cooler. I couldn't even see the color with my own eyes because it was so dark. And I was actually able to make out the colors on the cooler right on the iPhone 11 screen. That's actually pretty amazing. As for the night mode shots I got in that dark basement, obviously these aren't pleasant shots to look at, but it did its job and it lit up the area pretty well. This is definitely an area where I want to go more in depth on my full review. Okay, I also want to mention some of the changes to the front-facing camera on the iPhone 11 Pro. So last year, the iPhone XS and iPhone XR had a 7-megapixel sensor. This year, Apple is upgrading that to a 12-megapixel sensor. That's the same amount of megapixels on the front camera and the back camera for this year's phones. First impressions of the front-facing camera were good. It did a great job with the photos, maybe a little too good. I could see all the imperfections in my face whenever I took a front-facing photo. Also, an honorable mention to the front-facing camera this year is that it can now record slow motion video. Apple is calling this slow fees. And yeah, that's a feature on the iPhone 11 Pro if you want to use it. All right, and that's about the extent that I've been testing the iPhone 11 Pro. First impressions for this phone are really, really good. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far with the display, and especially with these cameras. I think this is going to be a big year for iPhone photography. A lot of other reviewers are currently saying it's the best camera smartphone available. Of course, we have the Pixel 4 coming out in October, so maybe it's a short range title, but I really want to test these claims out for myself. I really want to go out and take a lot of photos with this phone to see if that actually holds up. Another thing I really want to test out with the iPhone 11 Pro is, of course, the battery life. Apple is saying this is going to get 5 hours more than the iPhone XS Max, which I personally thought had a fine battery, but I knew the iPhone XR of last year had the best battery out of any iPhone I use, and the Pro phones this year are supposed to have an even better battery life than that. But there's still a bunch of testing I have to do with the iPhone 11 Pro Max before I can give my final verdict, but I also want to hear from you. What do you think of the iPhone 11 Pro and the iPhone 11 Pro Max? Do you plan on picking one up, or maybe do you plan on going with the more inexpensive iPhone 11, which starts at $699? If you like the video, make sure you give me a like. If you want to see more from my channel, make sure you're subscribed. If you want to support the channel out in any way, make sure you check out some of the links in the description. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.